Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card, we are starting our day off with today, the world in its reversal. Give us the strength to control what we can and accept the rest. So a lot of this work that we're doing right now has to do, and I got to stress this, a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. We were talking about this yesterday. Why are you unpacking something that feels like it's so energetically problematic, especially because you can't necessarily activate upon it, right? A lot of that energy right now, it's feeling like it's bringing up a lot within you, and it feels very energetically frustrating because it's not something that you feel like you can immediately take some kind of energetic action on. Why is the energy deep in the heart of the divine union doing this? Because a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency has done enough work in their own healing journey to recognize and identify that the aspects of ourself that we are not energetically ready to face, we ultimately often inadvertently harm others by not integrating and working through. A lot of this energy right now is even going back enough in their own cycles to recognize that something that they were holding within the self, something that they were taking energetic accountability for, wasn't necessarily something that they were energetically at fault of, but rather observing and seeing the expression of someone else's insecurities, doubts, fears, unhealthy coping mechanisms that had a harmful or non-positive effect or impact on them. That is the affirmation of a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. Not even doing this because it makes something energetically easier, but for the sake of trying to break an energetic cycle. Right? When we go through those moments, when we carry those wounds, the reason that we go back to heal them, and even now for a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, recognizing and identifying and seeing something, it doesn't immediately create that sense or state of healing, but it does give you the observation and the understanding of the self enough to say that one does not want to replicate something that may have caused that sense of harm, or energetic wounding in one's own self. What is the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency doing right now? They're facing those parts of themselves that are hard to face. They're unpacking those wounds, and they're doing it not even in the sense of allowing that to be something that feels like it is pleasant. It's not pleasant work. They're doing it because they're saying, I need to do that to be able to recognize something so I don't accidentally, inadvertently perpetuate it, right? That's a lot of that beautiful healing work that can sometimes create that sense of energetic unrest. This is also why this energy is doing so in such a slow fashion, because one's own ability to navigate through something, the articulation point between a breakthrough and a crisis, is literally about how you navigate something, how you are able to hold it. So we see even now that ability to almost experience it, to almost allow oneself to face something, it has to come by small moments, because one's own ability not to feel like, to be able to face something that may have previously felt like it did create a reactivity space in you, but not having it have that overwhelming reaction. That is that moment that almost feels like that sense of restoration, because that's that moment of almost feeling like you can face the storm within and not feel like you're being tossed about in the process. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency. This is why this is so much more difficult right now. And I want a lot of the energy coming into divine union frequency not to be in a reactive space, because while we see a lot of the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency is going through that internal process of unpacking something, there's a lot more distance that has been provided upon a lot of that healing, especially if this is long-held trauma or long-held hurt. It's not something that you can go immediately back towards to rectify, specifically because even if there is some path work there, It's addressing something that occurred potentially a long time ago in the past. The energy coming into divine union, this feels like it's a lot more at your doorstep, right? Especially if you're navigating those spaces or places where you're learning to hold the wounds of the counterpart. And it's creating that feeling of energetic unrest within you, because that's almost that point of accommodation, right? Like experiencing and taking on the wounds or the insecurities, the doubts and the fears of the energetic counterpart. It's almost like dropping a stone in your own well. You weren't prepared for it because your path work wasn't even in alignment with that. You're coming into that state of energetic empathy for it. And sometimes those can be moments that almost cause a reactivity point in something that is even outside of yourself, that's beyond the same reactivity that you might have were it happening or occurring to your own person. So that is why I'm going to say again, for all out of the energy coming into divine union frequency right now, if you're experiencing this, I want to say this with like all the love of my heart. I want you to chill. I want you to not let that be a point of reactivity. I want you to like feel what you're feeling, but not let it energetically trigger you. Because again, remember, you're holding something in the way another aspires and desires for it to be held. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is a lot of the work. And this is the reason that this work right now feels like it's so foundational and it feels like it's so cathartic. This is why we see that a lot of energy right now in separation, even if these are new energetic connections that you're making, this can almost feel like catharsis, but also overwhelm at the same time. Because especially if you're making new energetic connections with someone who shares your own perspective on the past, that's that moment that doesn't make something feel energetically easier. It almost feels like a relief in someone validating one's own experiences via this isn't the type of energy that's encountering one another and being like, you're right, you're right, you're right. It's almost like being like, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Because that's almost that moment that's like you're holding hands through a storm and being like, yeah, I've been through that storm too. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Hangman, and it's in its reversal, which we love to see. Remember how I told you that a lot of the energy right now in separation, closure, it doesn't come by going backwards. We don't go backwards to close anything. We go backwards to open things. We go forward to close things. And so for a lot of the energy right now, the ability to articulate about something that occurred in the past or something that you're still navigating, your own ability of putting that into words, just the ability of experiencing and expressing it and having someone affirm and validate that they have gone through similar, that is that moment that almost immediately allows for a point of energetic catharsis and some energetic closure occurring. Because that's almost that feeling of someone helping lighten the energetic burden, in the sense of recognizing that you're not the only person alone in experiencing something from the same perspective. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is feeling like they're getting validation on what they're experiencing, that's making it easier for them to let go and proceed forward on their own path. And it's feeling like a moment of energetic easement, because that's almost that moment that the act of expressing a burden almost feels like the lightening of a load, because you recognize that you're not even carrying it in the same way that you were prior to expressing it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is why it's more problematic. Why is it more problematic? It's easier for the energy deep in the heart of the divine union. Energy deep in the heart of the divine union is doing this around trauma or hurts that are potentially much older. Not so much a place of immediate addressing or activation. It's creating a lot of internal unrest, specifically probably because you don't know where to put it. there's nothing you can do about it. If you've been holding on to a trauma or wound for a long time and then you're suddenly having a breakthrough on it, you're like, I can't do anything about it. It's like, it's not here. It's all the way back there. But it does allow that moment of feeling energetic catharsis, because at least it's that moment that like it can feel frustrating, right? But it also feels so long as you're like, so long as it feels like it's like that frustration that is expressed. What is the energy doing? They're trying to just let it go. They're trying to have that expression be something that just moves through them. Potentially even trying to find some way to like express it like in a tangible way right now, like almost finding something in a physicality of something to help move some of that energy out, because that's that moment of being like, I've been carrying this for a long time, right? The problem right now, or the hurdle, and this is why I'm going to say like awooga to the energy that's coming into divine union frequency right now, is this doesn't feel like something that is so far back in the past. If these are new wounds that you're carrying, that you feel that were effectively or energetically received, you're taking them on via the sake of the energetic counterpart. And I need to stress this isn't the type of, we're not talking, when we're saying taking on someone's energetic wounds, we don't mean someone making their life your problem, right? We don't mean that. We literally mean these energies are energies that have recently come to understand each other better. We saw during that eclipse cycle the ability to see the hidden part of the other. Like, what is those parts that we hide? Those insecurities, those doubts, those vulnerabilities. These are energies that are coming to love each other in their most authentic expression. But loving one another in their most authentic expression requires that ability to take one's hurts, to take the insecurities, to take the wounds that were created outside of the divine union frequency into your own person. It feels much more problematic, and these energies would like to activate on them a lot more quickly, because that's that moment of assessing and saying, do we actually need to carry this, or is there something I can do to make this energetically easier? I need to remind these energies at this time that ability of holding something in the way and space that the counterpart aspires it to be held, even that feels like it's creating what may feel more energetically triggering or energetically challenging, because that's that moment of being like, I know how I would handle this, but I know how they want me to handle this. I know what I feel about this. I know that what they're experiencing there, that insecurity is not true. I know where that insecurity came from. I wish I could do something about that. Like, that's all that feeling of trying to process someone else's wounds when we integrate them into our own, that can create that point of volatility in us that almost creates that feeling of frustration or unrest. So this is the most difficult place right now to navigate. Like, that's the most difficult frequency to navigate some of this energy right now, because it feels a little bit more discordant. It doesn't feel like it's productive. It feels like it's more discordant or threatening to what you're creating. And third card in our 5-card spread for today is Queen of Pentacles. I'm going to say this again. Masculine energy coming into the divine union frequency. How is the masculine energy navigating through that? By being energetically mindful about how the feminine energy chooses and desires to energetically carry something. I told you, these are energies that are working in tandem on this healing journey. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy coming into that experience of taking on the wounds of the feminine, holding those hurts for them, that is a moment that sometimes creates that empathy that almost can feel like it's volatile, because it's not being able to change or adapt or accommodate for something that the feminine has learned to energetically carry. The feminine has made energetic peace with them. While as for the masculine, it feels like sudden, like it almost feels like the minute you're receiving it, it's like you're just experiencing the wound for the first time, right? So that's why we see that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, masculine looking towards the feminine and seeing their own ability to find that, like, this is energy that's already worked on their healing journey. So seeing the feminine that's already found a way to navigate through that, this is the masculine almost looking to the feminine for that sense of understanding on how to energetically carry something that they're holding for the feminine. While from feminine, this is that modality again. If this is feminine that is holding those insecurities or holding those wounds for the masculine, this is the feminine energy that feels that sense of frustration, because that's the feminine energy that, again, if these are spaces or places where the masculine feels that anxiety about being vulnerable, this is also the feeling of the feminine that recognizes that they're not taking that energetically personally. They're not pushing the masculine into a space where they feel like they need to be vulnerable. But that's almost that moment of the feminine building that sense of stability, because this is a feminine that is able to energetically empathize more with the masculine that may be feeling that, and almost reaffirming and saying to the masculine, when you're ready, know that I am here. Right? Because that steadiness, these are the energies that are giving each other what they need at this time. Masculine being mindful of how the feminine wants something carried. Feminine being very mindful of providing that space for the masculine to navigate something on an emotional level and saying, I am here to provide support, but only in the way that it feels energetically supportive. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in, but it's hard because they're making accommodations for carrying these things at the same time. So it's not that it's creating an internal disruption, but they're doing their best to navigate and mitigate it. This is a lot easier right now in the divine union frequency, because this is older stuff. This is stuff way like, this isn't as immediately connected, because these are the energies that have been in the union frequency for long enough that they know that there's already been an ability to carry something here. These energies are re-shouldering that burden by being able to face something in a way that they haven't been able to energetically face it before, via V, not for the counterpart energy, but seeing a counterpart that's doing the same work within their own self. And we see even now that feels like it's disruptive. And these energies are actually looking for practical places to put anything that feels like it's creating that feeling of unrest in them. Because that's the energy that's almost seeking out practical places to put something that they recognize that they're unpacking from far back in the past. But this is the energy that almost feels like that sense of validation and saying, I see something. And the minute I see something within the self, I can change it. I can observe this. The energy that was looking back in the past in this way was saying, I wanted to understand the atmosphere. I wanted to recontextualize the atmosphere through which I was carrying something. And a lot of this energy is now externalizing a lot of those wounds outside of the self. And that is the breakthrough point. Because that is the energy that is identifying and saying, that is not... For masculine and feminine energy, it's a little bit different. Masculine is freeing themselves of a feeling of energetic rejection if they're building empathy on why someone may have moved towards them in a way that felt like it was energetically harmful, that built that insecurity. Feminine is feeling the stability of recognizing that if energy was creating that sense or space of them feeling insecure in their own self, the solution is to be very stable in their own present context. So we see even now like that healing is almost coming into immediate expression. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is some breakthrough stuff in separation. This is some straight up breakthrough. If these are energies, I'm going to say it doesn't necessarily need to be romantic. If this is romantic, it's slow. It's campfire energy. We like it. It's got momentum, right? Momentum means caution, care, discernment, trepidation, right? And these energies, even now, we saw that we almost left them in that point of saying, like, I'm not energetically perfect. I'm not even sure if I'm ready to be in partnership. Which is ironic, because the minute someone effectively says that, they're probably in the perfect place to be in partnership. Because we see even now, like, this is the feminine energy in separation that's already like successfully navigated what they feel like they can change from within versus what they feel like they experience from without. And if the masculine's identifying that on the part of the feminine that has that ability of discerning that, for masculine energy that's looking for feminine to be in a place of authenticity and resiliency to be able to work towards manifestation goals, and masculine energy is also doing that work of trying to be their most vulnerable, authentic sense of self in order to find feminine energy through which they can build honest, open, authentic connections towards manifestation goals. This is beautiful. because these are energies that are extremely pragmatic and extremely realistic in the process. And all of it shows a lot of signs of energetic healing. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, you got, the way, it's something, the way you fix something. The way you fix something is you got to know why it was broken. The way you fix something. The way you fix something is is knowing why it was broken. And effectively, what's really beautiful about a lot of the energy in healing right now, I told you, they're looking towards one another with a sense of conscientiousness to see how one addresses anything that did not work in the past. These energies are being very mindful of someone being like, yeah, it was awful. All these terrible things happened to me, and I don't know why. I was just doing everything I could that was perfectly fine, and just all of these things that, no, these are not energies going forward in that way. These are energies, these are energies that have done a lot of work in assessing not only what they've experienced from the outside, but what they could have changed from within. So we see even now that ability of looking at something and not just sweeping something under the rug, not just making some kind of blanket statement, not just pushing that accountability off to another individual or another circumstance or situation, but the energy that is being very intentional in how they experience and navigate the moment that they're coming into new energetic connections by putting a lot of thought and consideration in terms of what was theirs. It's all about carrying today. What was theirs? What was their hurdle that they needed to carry, that they're healing going forward, versus what they could not change from without. So this energy effectively during that Scorpio full moon cycle did that work in terms of putting those things in the buckets, figuring out, nope, this was me. That was totally me. I shouldn't have done that. That was caused by that. I shouldn't have experienced that. So this is the energy that's done that parsing. And these are energies right now that are building new bridges by talking through a lot of that energetic work in the past. That is what hasn't worked becomes the template in identifying, these energies are picking up each other's homework and giving each other notes in the process. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is why this energy right now is the most volatile for energy coming into divine union. I'm going to say it again. I don't want anyone going on a crusade for the sake of the energy that they're coming into the divine union frequency with. Because you see this? You're embodying the wounds of the other, and you're feeling them for the first time. This is the energy that's made peace with something from the past. What happens when you encounter and you find someone's insecurities and you're healing from something, and suddenly you're building that empathetic bridge with someone, and they give you something that they've already made energetic peace with? It feels like you just got hit with it for the first time. It becomes your wound. And so one's own ability to navigate that can sometimes inspire a reactivity point that's almost exacerbated beyond how you yourself might navigate something, specifically for the fact that you're almost energetically shell-shocked in the space or place of having to take that energetically into your own experience. So what is the energy doing instead of becoming reactive or moving into that? What are you going to do? You're going to take all that and start rushing out of the divine union frequency with it? No. These energies are being mindful on how someone is carrying something. And they're utilizing that to reaffirm the investment in saying that will never happen to you in this frequency. What you experienced was unfair. What you experienced was not correct. What you experienced, I want to be able to heal it. So rather than this energy throwing themselves back out of the divine union frequency to be able to do so, this is the energy that is navigating the feeling of desiring to do that. But almost reaffirming the energetic commitment and saying, that will never happen here. I will not allow that to happen. So that's that moment that it feels like that weakness point in discovering another's insecurities that also becomes the energetic tie that binds. And it's coming through on that sense of empathy. But it's harder to carry right now for energy coming into divine union, because this feels like it is more wounds that occurred in closer proximity to now. The energy in the divine union frequency, deep in the heart doing this work, this is some long-held stuff you're working on. So there's not, again, there's not so much of a space or place of activating upon it. In fact, this could potentially lead, some of this work could lead to the restoration of some energetic connections, specifically due to one's, or the separation, I'm going to say the restoration of some energetic connections, or the final separation from some energetic connections, because the change in perspective, having that kind of breakthrough, can either lead to a moment of feeling like you can heal something by having a point of empathy and understanding the pain someone was experiencing at a time that you personally took on a wound that you experienced via their own pain, or that moment of feeling like you were internally experiencing a wound that you carried within yourself that you now feel was one that was given to you. That's either going to create a space or place of potentially restoring an energetic connection or severing it. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is healing. Whatever feels like it's healing in that capacity is what will effectively or energetically occur around some of those older situations or circumstances, right? Because it really is that moment. It's a question of what the healing demands. For some of the masculine energy, if these are wounds wherein you recognize and identify that some of the feminine energy from your past was in a point of pain when you experienced something, not taking it energetically personally anymore via your own connection to the feminine energy. This could be something about the masculine being able to restore some energetic connections in a way of being able to have empathy for something that you didn't have before. Well, for feminine energy right now, if these are moments or modalities wherein you've been navigating an insecurity that you've been holding for a long time, but you feel instead of that being a limitation that you yourself were carrying because you were not making the grade in some way, feeling instead that you were not fitting into the mold or the desires of some kind of external energy. This could be the separation event in feminine, not wanting to be in connection with that energy, because you can see here that can elicit different reactivities or responses. So that's either going to fix, remedy, or ultimately sever an energetic connection to a certain extent, because that's that moment that either feels like it creates that point of having a breakthrough in terms of what you can heal with another, or that crisis point in feeling like you see something in such a way that you can't find any way to validate an ability to rectify or heal that. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is why I'm going to say it again. Don't go on some kind of crusade nowadays, right now, for some kind of energy that you're feeling is happening around someone else. Because what we're seeing right now is being able to navigate, to hold something the way someone would aspire and desire something to be energetically held is really important at this time. Because these energies, I told you, a lot of this work right now is accommodating, finding a way to hold the energetic wounds that someone is bringing into the divine union frequency. And that can feel disruptive, right? And it can almost create that reactivity point. But what is the energy doing? They're being mindful in not wanting to exacerbate a wound by putting too much effort and energy and concentration towards it, right? So even now we see that that's the energy that's almost coming forward from that space and saying that, I'm wrestling with my own self and my own desire to activate on something by being energetically mindful in how you proceed or how you hold something. And that's the energy that almost reaffirms in their commitment and saying, I will guarantee you that I will show you that that wound can be healed. And that's the energy that doesn't say you have to heal that. That's the energy that says it's almost a recommitment in saying, I'm going to commit to the fact that this partnership is one that you will never have to experience that energetically again. That deepening, that is that energetic commitment that becomes the tie that binds. Continuing for masculine and feminine in separation right now. These are those new energetic bridges that are being restored right now by someone being able to see something from the perspective of another that allows for an ability to heal. And that's either the new energetic connections that are finding each other almost at a moment that feels like that sense of saying, I did everything I could, but I could not heal something. But it's almost that expansion point of suddenly, again, if these energies say, I don't know if I'm ready for partnership, they probably are, because they found each other and they're almost saying the same exact thing. Or this is an energy of restoration wherein someone is able to go back to something and say, I see now what I can do, how I was seeing something incorrectly. And my ability to see what was wrong is now giving me an ability to do something right. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the World and our Hanged Man. World in its reversal and our Hangman in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. We've got here the Wheel of Fortune in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. I have to stress one of the things that we're seeing right now. I don't want you look, sometimes cards in the reverse, it's Taurus season. I'm not surprised to see so many of these cards in its reversal. There's a lot of determination. There's a lot of resiliency. There's a lot of slow progress that is occurring right now, even in the energy of separation. And the statement that's coming across all the frequencies is let's not be hasty, right? For masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is potentially new energetic connections that are almost affirming to each other this desire and ability to want to proceed slowly. It's no surprise to identify that these energies that are trying to build upon having an authentic connection are almost intentionally trying to slow down the process. The problem is the energy in experiencing someone that simultaneously is like, I'm going to put it this way. This is a type of energy being like, we don't need to rush things. Great. Are you available tomorrow? Yes. It's that type of energy, because it's the energy that both feels that flux or that juxtaposition of feeling that sense of wholeness in an energetic connection, which feels less like one that you have to rush ahead or advance into something or else you're going to lose it, but more something that feels like it's gathering momentum. It feels like you're not in a rush to get anywhere, because the connection feels so authentic that you're just enjoying it. It doesn't feel like you're holding your breath. It's that feeling of almost enjoying every moment that is building that sense of energetic security for a lot of the energy in separation right now, because it's almost that moment that, again, there's an excitement to feel and to see one another, but there's almost, again, that feeling of not having that anxiety aspect that makes you feel like you have to energetically rush the process, because these energies are building authentic connections that aren't based from the passion space, which potentially creates more of that anxiety. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union. This is that experience. This feels a little bit more difficult, because what is this energy trying to do? Something that you are receiving from the counterpart energy is creating discomfort. You're holding a wound that you didn't have prior to entering the divine union frequency. Even in our most healed energetic expressions, we cannot avoid some of those insecurities or wounds. We cannot change the experiences of the other. Even integrating those experiences into our own self, it feels energetically uncomfortable. Are these energies moving away from each other at a time of that occurring? No. This is becoming the tie that binds. These energies have done enough on their own reactivity space that they're not becoming reactive in that moment. But they are trying to find a way to process through them. They are trying to find ways to integrate through them. And that's something that feels like it takes time, right? And it can feel, if you're having more of that frustration feeling right now, that's because some things just need time. Some things can only be navigated with easement with the vector of time. You can't rush some processes, unfortunately. So we see even now that some of that frustration feeling that is occurring is almost that moment that is almost allowing that sense of time to make something energetically easier, But that's almost like that feeling of like a watch pot that never boils, because you're like, I wish this process, because I wish I could speed up this process, but you recognize that you can't. Masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this feels more like an easement point, because this is something you've been carrying for a long time. This feels like the liberation of that, because this is something that you've been holding on to for a long time. And now it's not that you're not holding on to it, but you're experiencing it in a way that feels like a lightening of the energetic burden. If this is masculine energy coming out of a shame space or a rejection space, looking at something with empathy, then that's the masculine immediately feeling that lightening. While for the feminine, if this is something feminine externalizing a wound that they've been carrying within themselves of some kind of blame, as instead of looking at something and being like, that was a moment that I blame myself for not being more conforming to something around me. Both of these energies feeling that lightening, and that feels like about time, because that's observing and finding the blockage and being able to like advance beyond it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hangman in its reversal and our Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles in its upright. Loving our Queen of Pentacles in the center position today. Can I please have one card to clarify? Very Taurus. This is good. We like seeing this card in this position. We've got here our Five of Wands in its reversal. You know what? Sometimes when you're feeling discomfort, the best thing to do is learn to feel comfort in the discomfort. I gotta just say this, a lot of that energy right now is navigating through that ability. Now for masculine and feminine energy, in the divine union frequency, if you're having a breakthrough like this around something that you've been holding on to for a long time, that ability of feeling that, it creates a sense of peace, because it's not the fact that you're not still holding on to something, but the way that you're energetically holding it is lightening that burden. For feminine, that's a lot of that work of externalizing, being able to take something that you are carrying within the energetic body and move it out of the self, right? It's not that you're not still holding it, but you're observing it outside of the self instead of internalizing it as a failure point from within. For masculine energy, this is that moment of almost looking towards the feminine and saying that these were wounds created by an unstable feminine in the past. That is that moment of masculine almost reminding themselves and saying, that was probably a feminine energy. Like, that was not a failure point on my part. That was potentially seeing an unstable feminine energy. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, and misarticulating it at a time of youth as someone who is more energetically grounded and stable. These are energies that immediately feel the lightening, because you're taking that wound outside of the self and you're recontextualizing it in a way. It doesn't go away, but it certainly becomes easier to carry. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, this is harder, because this is creating more of a reactivity space in you, especially for the masculine energy right now. It may even feel like that moment of feeling energetically triggered around some of the things that have occurred around or to the feminine energy, right? That's that moment of feeling that vulnerability of coming into alignment with your own feminine energy via the counterpart, and your own ability of just not letting it create that reactivity space in you, potentially in a way that you identify, like masculine energy, be like, if that had happened to me, I would have had like a different reactivity point. Like, that's the masculine that almost builds that sense of energetic, like, trust in that feminine energy, because that's almost the masculine energy that's, I told you, looking towards the feminine, saying, how does she carry it? How does that feminine carry it? How is that feminine so energetically resilient with something that I'm doing my best to navigate for their sake in such a way that it sometimes feels like it's energetically overwhelming? That's just integrating their own experiences from the past into the masculine experience. While for feminine energy, that same ability, seeing the masculine having been wounded or hurt by feminine energy that wasn't able to be so resilient, that is the feminine energy that's almost affirming on the pathwork going forward with the masculine and saying, I can't have that energy come into that full space. Like, I can't change the fact that those wounds occurred, but I can show them I can show them through being the expression of the resilient feminine that I'm not going to inadvertently cause harm to the masculine by subjecting them to my emotionality, by creating those moments of the masculine feeling uncertain. That's the feminine energy that's working on their own self via V to be able to continue to build a connection with masculine, wherein the masculine feels like it is safe to be energetically vulnerable. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is a lot of catharsis that's coming into play. I'm going to tell you right now, I see a lot of new energetic connections that are happening during this period specifically. And it's not the fact that the past isn't, and the beautiful thing about these connections, even if they don't lead to romantic circumstances, they are creating closure on past experiences through the act of energetically connecting with counterpart energy. Because this is energy that's articulating on their experiences and where they're finding each other, and they've made peace with them. They recognize in the ability of articulating something that they found peace in it, because that's how we find closure going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Pentacles in combination with our Two of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now, time. That's the thing. And I gotta say, this is slow dancing. This is like slow dancing energy. Masculine, I'm telling you right now, masculine and feminine energy, if something feels like it's slow, if these are energies in healing, it's probably like, this is slow, hallelujah. Because this is the energy that feels that sense of rightness in the time that something is taking, right? There could even be a moment that some of the energy is articulating that one of the things that may have happened in past path work, there was an indication of something that was moving in the wrong direction, was some kind of feeling of expediency, wanting to have to like rush through a process, feeling like there was some kind of timing that was off, or feeling that you're like you were trying to pull someone in a direction that they didn't want to go. These energies are building a productive energy with each other because it feels like they're on the same timing, right? And that's not energy that feels like there's some kind of energetic ultimatum and getting together as quickly as possible for fear of losing the other because their options are open. Like, this is the energy that is utilizing this, like almost saying, I'm very slow to come back into a relationship right now. This isn't energy that's saying I'm resisting coming back into a relationship. This is the energy that's saying, I want to make sure, better to have a relationship built upon mutual intentionality of purpose, built upon mutual agreed upon sense of timing. Better to have that than no partnership at all. And that in itself is where we see a lot of these connections are coming from, that are allowing for so much of this to be an energetically healing moment. Because this is not, look at this feminine energy. Is this feminine energy just rushing to find partnership? Is this feminine energy just like rushing to find a counterpart? Is this feminine energy like the song's about to start and they need to find a companion? No, this is the feminine energy that's basically saying, I'm comfortable. I'm good. I don't need an energetic partner. I'm looking for the right energetic partner. So we see even now that feminine energy, feeling that stability, even in a moment that they're building upon new possible connections, it feels more like the feminine energy navigating something with an open palm, right? That's not the feminine that's like trying to hold on to something too tightly. That's feminine almost learning that sense of energetic easement, because the feminine's reaffirming and saying, anything that's for me, I'm not going to miss it because it's going to be on my timeline. How could you miss something that's for you, right? While for masculine energy, this is masculine energy encountering and building slow connections with feminine, doing very much the same. This is masculine saying, I want there to be clarity. This is masculine that's saying, better to be in connection with stable feminine energy, with feminine energy that knows what they want, with feminine energy that I am also comfortable and confident on, feminine energy that can navigate my truth and build from a place of honoring each other's manifestations. Better to have that than have anything at all. And this energy even here, this energy, the masculine energy, and this is what's really beautiful about some of the masculine energy in separation right now. You've recognized that in partnership, it's not about fitting into a template. It's about creating that partnership with the feminine. And that's something that takes time. It takes vulnerability. It takes openness. So this is the masculine energy that is coming towards feminine and is abolishing a lot of their preconceived notions in relationality to what they feel like they need to offer for the sake of coming into partnership with feminine, and rather approaching the feminine energy with a sense of slowness and curiosity, which is beautiful. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is something that we're recognizing and seeing to a certain degree that may feel more difficult or more triggering. Because what we're identifying here for a lot of the masculine energy and feminine energy that's coming into divine union, this is navigating a lot of the experiences in relationality to severed or broken partnerships. Like at the time, like as you're experiencing them in real time. And this is the energy that's navigated them. They've made space for them within their own experience. You're experiencing it for the first time. And that's why it feels energetically unsettling to a certain degree. Both of these energies, not rushing back to open up like old wounds, but rather reaffirming the commitment not to do so. And even that is how one is able to carry something, which is why we see that feels like a little frustrating now, because it's almost like you having to process through an old wound that someone's carried, but you're doing it for the first time. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Cups in its reversal and our Three of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Cups in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is deep in the heart of the divine union right now. We're really seeing that there's something very important that's happening here in relationality to the experience of feeling like you're understanding something that may have occurred a long time ago in a different context. And that is having different reactivity points in the energy. Because for feminine and masculine, this is that feeling that could, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, feels more like an energetic breakthrough point. Because that is a moment that why is the energy being so discerning on what may have created those wounds in the past? Because a lot of the energy feels like the severed connection between masculine and feminine in the past may be the result of where a lot of those wounds are occurring in the present. And so the affirmation of oneself not to want to repeat those energetic cycles is why we see that this feels like such a relief. And for masculine and feminine, it is having a different reactivity space deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. For feminine, if these were things that you were holding from within, those insecurities, those wounds, those experiences or expressions that you were really holding as like a personal failure point, the ability to externalize them out immediately feels like it's healing. Because you're not experiencing something new, but the way that you're holding it, your own perception on it has changed. And that creates that feeling of stability. While for masculine, that ability to look at something, feeling that sense of rejection that you may have internalized within yourself or blamed yourself for, and instead recognizing that that may have been a wound that was experienced by someone who was going through a point of instability, as opposed to something that felt like it was speaking directly towards your own lack. That is also the masculine feeling that sense of energetic vitality coming into play, because both of these energies are experiencing that lightening in a way that feels like it's energetically healing, and it's all about how one carries it. The masculine feeling like that burden of relief coming off of that space of feeling like they were to blame for something, feeling like, again, that freedom of almost looking at the inner child and saying it wasn't your fault. For feminine, that moment of saying that was the energy that profited or benefited from me being in a point of insecurity or instability, both of these energies that are able to heal in that capacity, specifically by observing something in a different way. And it's creating a different modality in them. For feminine, a lot more stability in the past. For masculine, a lot more ability of looking towards spaces of blame or shame or doubt in the self with an energy of optimism and joy. While for masculine and feminine energy, coming into divine union right now, this is more energetically difficult because this is that feeling of frustration in relationality to what you have to energetically carry for the sake of the counterpart. For feminine, it's a little bit energetically easier, especially if this is feminine energy that has worked on their own ability of creating stability for masculine. That is the feminine effectively almost feeling that sense of saying like their own ability of continuing to work on themselves in that way is the way that the feminine is supporting the masculine, because that is the feminine says, the more that I'm able to improve my own sense of stability, the more energetically safe the masculine will feel to be their most, authentic, like allow that inner child wound to heal. While for masculine, this is the masculine energy that's almost articulating and amplifying towards the feminine. And this is the problem with the masculine energy, which is the masculine energy wants to energetically heal the feminine from situations or circumstances wherein they feel like the masculine energy was not valuing the feminine or was thinking more from the orientation of their own personal interests or their own personal pleasure. So you see even now, like, this is why this could feel a little bit more triggering for masculine energy right now coming into divine union, because it creates more of a feeling of energetic defensiveness in the feminine, in the masculine, and it creates a little bit more rigidity in the feminine. While for masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to in separation, this is like a feeling of like a lot of positivity and relationality to new connections. Because these are energies that are almost they're like front loading the hard work, right? They're front loading the hard work. They're just doing the hard part first. They're like getting over, they're like just ripping the Band-Aid off. They're taking accountability. They're making sure that they're on the same page. And what happens in that moment where you feel like you've gone through a lot of the hard part first? Be like, all right, that was the hard part. Now things feel like they can get a little bit energetically easier. And masculine, if that was the masculine that challenged themselves to be very authentic with feminine in terms of what it is that they're truly seeking, and being energetically curious as to what the feminine is seeking, that is that moment that immediately creates catharsis, especially if you feel like you find that sense of energetic connection between those 2 points. They don't have to be perfect, but as long as there's that Venn diagram there. While for feminine, seeing a masculine that is open, that offers that to you, that isn't in that modality wherein they're trying to they're trying to be mysterious, or they're trying to be they're trying to lead from the ego, but they're almost being in that point of view of helping you see them and trying to be their authentic version of self. That immediately creates that sense of optimism and feminine, because again, it's almost building from that point of trust in terms of someone that, even if this isn't like an energy or connection that feels like it's it's not like hot and heavy immediately, but almost that feeling of being like there's a lot of authenticity here. This is someone who's being very open and upfront with where they are and what they aspire for. And this isn't an energy that is creating that false illusion in relationality to trying to tell me what feminine energy that immediately feels security, in a masculine that is being very energetically authentic from the feminine in the start, almost saying, I know you energetically deserve that. And I don't want to give you the wrong idea. And I don't want to put you in a space where you're not sure what that is. So even now we see that that's a lot of healing and catharsis is potentially coming into new energetic connections. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Wheel of Fortune in its reversal in combination with our Five of Wands in its reversal. May I please get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Pentacles in its upright. And we love to see this energy here, especially for a lot of the energy in separation, because, I got to point this out. And this is why you don't have to be worried about seeing certain cards. Certain cards are okay. Like, we don't want to fear a reversal here. This Wheel of Fortune in its reversal, when you're in a place, when you're comfortable, when you're energetically in a place of comfort, you don't want to rush through the process. I keep saying, like, when the Wheel of Fortune's in its reversal, it's not that feeling like everything's come to a screeching halt. So long as you love the view, you can kind of stay there indefinitely, right? It all depends on what you're experiencing at the time that something is moving slowly. So that's what we talk about with a little bit of this like campfire energy that we see is potentially happening right now for a lot of that energy that's in separation. Because it's not the fact that something isn't moving slow right now, right? This is energy. We see a lot of the energy right now in separation moving very slowly. But this isn't energy that's moving slowly because of reluctance for partnership. This isn't energy that's moving slowly because of reluctance or resistance to showing one's authentic sense of self. This is energy that is going through that slow, energetic unfolding of the self, right? And when we're doing that in a way, that's like the slower you go, the better it gets, because like that's that moment of almost feeling like you're savoring that process. Because as long as something is uncomfortable, as long as something is energetically pleasant, then that doesn't feel like something that is slow. It feels like something that is building energetic momentum, right? That is that feeling that almost like creates that sense of peace to a certain extent, because that's that moment of saying, I'm comfortable with this energetic connection. I'm comfortable with where it is. I potentially aspire and desire it to go somewhere else, but this isn't energy that's seeking each other out for something that they're not experiencing in the moment. If these are new energetic like connections, these are energies that are almost like that expression or expansion point of saying like, I just enjoy doing nothing with you. Right? Because that's the energetic equivalent of feeling like you truly appreciate being in the modality of just sharing in someone else's energetic connection. So we see, even to a certain extent, if these are energies that are vibing on their own in separation, a lot of that energy has almost hit that vibe again, which is very positive. A sign of energetic closure that's taking place. Or if this is energy that is feeling this in new energetic connections, it can almost be like, this feels so weird. Like, it's like, I'm just not in, like, it's almost saying like, I don't feel like I'm in so much of a rush, but that's almost a sign of something that's moving forward in a healthy way, because you don't feel like you need to like accomplish something in order to maintain it. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is that equivalent point. And we see even now that ability of navigating through something, giving oneself the space or state to be able to inhabit the process of holding something for another. There's a moment, even energetically now, if this is feeling like a point of discomfort, it feels like something that there's a recognized ability of understanding that some things just get easier with time. And so we see even now that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, that ability of just like not letting oneself be reactive as you feel something, but just giving the element of time, like a moment to help adapt to the integration of someone else's lessons and experiences into your own. It's like pouring water into a fish tank. Like you got to do it. You do it slowly, and you might feel those moments of shock, but like it's also that moment that almost feels like that sense of like energetic easement, if you will, because these are energies that do not feel like those insecurities, those doubts, those fears, those wounds are not navigable. There's the energy that feels like the expression of saying, I can hold them indefinitely. I hope one day we can ease them. While for the energy right now, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is that easement point potentially being reached, because you're doing that work in confronting what may have previously felt was not something that you were ready to confront in the past. And one's own ability to confront something in that way, potentially leading to a breakthrough and change in perception, is immediately. It's like something that's happening on an internal level. It's not even something that you can see. It's just something that's happening within, but immediately brings a deepened sense of security and peace to circumstances and situations. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Wands in its reversal and our Temperance card. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Pentacles in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy. Why, like again, why do all of this work on something that has occurred so far in the past? Because sometimes we hold these parts of ourselves in those moments that we suddenly can navigate through something in such a way that it doesn't create that reactivity space to it. That change of perception can change everything, because that's that moment that almost allows us to create a sense of peace on something that may have previously been something that we held with a lot of anxiety or doubt or fear. So for a lot of the energy navigating forward in that way, simply that ability of holding something in a different way, making peace with something, immediately almost changes one's own ability in relationality to how one moves forward. Because again, it feels like that sense of being more open and comfortable with oneself that allows for that energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into coming into the divine union frequency, this is more energetically difficult because this is something that this isn't so far in the past. This is energy that feels like these wounds were created much more recently. And even now, we see that ability of not wanting to reopen a wound, right? That's why we see that these energies, while they may be feeling triggered by navigating them, they're trying to be very mindful about how something should be carried to be able not to reopen a wound in the way someone does not want something opened. That is that moment or modality that we're seeing that creates that space or place of allowing patience to help with the circumstance or situation, because these energies are not being reactive in that moment. They're affirming that they're going to heal those spaces by giving all the positive energy they can, right? Like that's that moment of almost like not addressing it, but it's almost like being able to do so is almost like reaffirming their own ability to be mindful of someone else's insecurities, and almost immediately, even in the day-to-day, like even if you're not immediately tangibly addressing it, always creating that state or space of affirmation via the mindfulness that someone carries insecurities in those places and spaces. So even now, a lot of that healing is being energetically activated. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is a lot of breakthrough energy. And if this is pathwork of restoration, I'm going to say it again, these aren't energies that are just coming back together and picking things up where they left off. This is energy that's already showing some way that they've integrated something that they've changed within themselves in their day-to-day that is giving someone a validation point that something has truly changed, because it's not even in relationality to just the relationship. It has more to do with how they conduct themselves on like a day-to-day level. This is almost someone who's like, something about the experience from the past changed like who I was as a person. Like this is the energy that's almost like articulating how much they've energetically changed simply by a lot of that work of having to heal something that became not just something that they were experiencing via the counterpart, but something that they recognized within themselves that needed to be healed. So we see that a lot of that energy, if this is a pathwork of restoration, this is probably in potentially old energetic connections, because this is a type of energy that's almost like articulating how much time it takes for someone to make all of those changes. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is in separation, if these are new energetic connections, then this is the energy that is sharing the same perspective on experiences from the past. And that sense of not needing to feel that sense of rushing forward, that is just enjoying where you are in the process, right? That's like enjoying every step of the way. This is energy that's just genuinely enjoying the company of the new energy. And it doesn't come from a space of like, while there may be manifestation goals here, it doesn't feel like something that needs to move towards the manifestation goal, because the energetic harmony of finding someone who shares your perspective in this way almost feels immediately like such a point of catharsis that it's almost like something where you don't want to rush the process. It's like almost getting slowed down. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card in combination with our Page of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Cups in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation. This is like, again, this is like some of the nicest energy right now that's happening in separation. Because this is this slowness that we see, it doesn't feel like a frustrating energy. It feels cathartic. It feels like there's something here, that there's that, like what occurs, it's that moment of validation. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, feeling that sense of a lot of the work that you've been doing so far really paying off, potentially in the realm of the new energetic connections that you're like creating at this time, or the ability to heal something in a way that you couldn't heal something before. So for feminine energy, even now, like this is feminine energy that isn't rushing. I'm telling you now, they're not rushing towards any new energetic connection. This is the feminine energy that's almost validating in separation, saying better in separation, or better in my own energy than with the wrong energetic connection. So even now, the feminine is feeling something that feels positive. It feels productive. But the feminine doesn't feel that sense of rushing towards something, because that is specifically the energy of the feminine that feels like they're moving with a connection towards masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that has and shares their own level or degree of energetic patience. It's like almost the masculine saying, like, you know, whatever feels comfortable for you, whatever, like on your timeline. That's the energy of the masculine. That again, this is almost the feminine feeling that sense of a masculine that's not coming towards them to try to serve a means to an end, because that's a masculine energy that's almost articulating and saying, like, I just want to be in your energetic company. Like, I just want to kind of like continue forward in that way, because again, these energies are moving with a lot of slowness and a lot of determination. So even now we see that this is feminine energy that is considering those options going forward. They're considering what they're receiving from masculine. But what's comfortable about this is feminine, that again, that ability to even be more in that modality of feeling some expansion or expression of choice, that in itself feels like an energetic breakthrough for the feminine, because that doesn't feel like the feminine is scrambling to catch up to what the masculine desires, but it feels more like that energetic equivalent of a masculine that like is, you know, taking that more intentional approach via the honesty and just appreciating the energy of being with the feminine in whatever way that looks. And we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, this is masculine energy. If you're healing, while there may be something that feels like an expression or an expansion point about, again, doing something that serves your own needs, serves your own interests, it's not the fact of recognizing that that isn't something that you aspire and desire to do, but you are amplifying the ability of being open towards the feminine. And that ability of almost saying and leaving that as an option for the feminine to consider, having that moment of amplifying, coming towards the feminine from a place of curiosity, is that expansion or expression of choice, because these are energies that are almost saying to one another, I'm not really even invested or interested in doing something with you so long as I just get to kind of enjoy the energy of being like around you. So this is really beautiful energy that we're seeing for a lot of the energy in separation. While for masculine, and this could be happening both in the romantic realm, but even just in the realm of friendship right now. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into divine union, this is more of that feeling or that equivalent that we are seeing that has more to do with the sense of wanting to help someone heal from experiences and situations and circumstances from the past. For masculine and feminine energy, the ability to hold space, the ability to navigate forward, that ability of what happens when we hold that sense, when we hold another's insecurities, when we hold another's wounds. These are energies that are navigating through and learning how to do that. But again, not just the way that they would hold them, but how someone else considers or chooses them to be held. And even in that moment, it does feel like there's a breakthrough of points, because even in the ability of someone to articulate and say, how would you best like me to navigate this? The expression of feeling someone who has that mindfulness for you energetically, that in a moment is its own form of healing, because it opens all of the possibilities in realizing that you're in a moment that you're experiencing something that feels like the amplification of choice immediately brings about a feeling of immediate energetic healing, or something that can be healed in time, because it's showing the sense of something that is a mindful, intentional, considerate connection. Continuing to get clarification on these cards. Well, for the masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, it's not that you're holding something new. These are long held things you've been carrying, but your ability to see them from a different perspective is changing your ability to hold them. And that feels like a relief, because it does feel like a lightening of an energetic burden. Continuing to get clarification on our 9 of Pentacles in combination with our 6 of Pentacles. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Judgment card. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. You know, your own ability to navigate forward to a certain extent. And it's the amplification on all of this has to do with the fact that there's a reconsideration point in terms of something that you've been holding for a long time that may have felt like it was creating more of that expression of the wound. And what we're seeing right now for a lot of the energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now is your own judgment on something, your ability to look back on something from the far past and see something from a different perspective is allowing, and the reason the energy is doing this right now is effectively to create sounder decisions and choices going forward, right? This is that energy that recognized that some of the expression of the wound that they received from the past was a result of energy that was not navigating sound judgment. So this is why the energy in the divine union frequency is doing so much work in rectifying that within the self, because that is the masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency that wants to be able to navigate forward with even sharper judgment and security in their decision points. And that requires an ability to see things from a point of energetic clarity. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, this feels more immediate, because these aren't necessarily things from way back in the past. This is you experiencing something renewed, something that someone has held for a long time and experiencing it for the first time. And you're navigating your own feeling of energetic judgment as opposed to how someone else is carrying something. And that takes a little bit of modification, right? And that's not a moment that we see here that this energy wants to change something in the other. But if these are moments where someone is holding something that they're saying is a vulnerability, and someone else is looking at it and saying, I don't see anything there that's negative. I see that you're energetically perfect. A lot of that could just be the relief of insecurities that were created from past unhealed energetic connections. There's a feeling of an affirmation and saying, I'm going to help them see and recognize that they're not in a space or place where they have to have that anxiety. They have to have that fear. And I'm going to build a garden where someone told someone that there was a desert, right? And that's a lot of that feeling of affirmation that's building forward in a moment of holding someone's wounds in a way that you feel like you can do something positive, but also in a way that you're not moving away from how someone wants something held. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is that work of feeling the peace or easement. A lot of energy right now in separation, feeling of validation in a lot of the choices that you made over the last few months, moving in this direction, because a lot of this energy is feeling the accompaniment of energy that's moving in the same way right now. And feeling that sense of not being energetically alone as you navigate something often immediately creates that moment of catharsis, because that's that moment that you can look back on the past and say, if something is energetically easier, then I've effectively healed something, which means that you can trust your judgment because you've been moving forward and you recognize that the choices that you're making are returning back to you in a way that feels like it is positive and restorative and productive. Further clarification between our Six of Pentacles in combination with our Four of Cups right now. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. You know, what's really valuable at this time is it's not the fact that you haven't had to energetically let something go. We see even now a lot of the energy in separation is still navigating experiences from the past. What did I tell you? Where do we find closure? Do we find closure going back to the place that we needed, that created the wounds in the first place? No, we find closure by going forward, because a lot of this energy, like, look what's happening right now for a lot of energy in separation. A lot of energy in separation felt like they were walking into the blind. They were letting go of something and they were uncertain about what they would find moving forward. And it felt like an energetic risk. And for a lot of the energy in separation, the moment that you start to feel that sense of restoration, you start to feel that sense of seeing and experiencing what you were effectively missing or lacking, that you left behind in the past, it immediately feels like it builds that sense of validation in terms of what you may have felt like you were missing in the past that required you to go into that point of separation in the first place. But that isn't the energy of going back to something that felt like it was a lack and saying, I miss feeling that lack. That's the energy that almost feels like that double whammy in feeling like they're re-healing something at the moment they feel the validation of what they were hoping to experience from a situation or circumstance. That sometimes can feel almost like the reopening of a wound, because that's that moment that feeling that sense of positivity reminds you of like what you were energetically missing in the first place that required you to go on that energetic journey. While for a lot of the energy, if this is energy that's restoring, it's coming in the sense of feeling the catharsis of someone says, I recognize I wasn't giving you enough. I understand now. My priorities have changed. I'm coming back, not giving you more of what I gave you back then. I'm coming back because I have changed and I'm now offering you what I know I should have been giving you from the start. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that's basically saying, I see the cracks that you're coming into the divine union with. I'm not going to go addressing those cracks. I'm not going to make those wider. I'm not going to open something up that you don't want to open. I'm going to pour gold in them. I'm just going to pour gold in them. And I'm going to let you recognize and understand that whenever you're ready to heal them, I'm also ready to heal them as well. But in the process, I'm going to show you that I don't consider them insecurities. I don't consider them lack from your perspective. I'm going to show you in every way, shape, and form, like again, These are energies that say, for the most part, even in someone's imperfections, this is the energy that says, even in your imperfections, I want you to recognize that I find you perfect. Final card. Well, for the masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union, this is the energy healing those cracks. This is the energy going back and finding those moments, being able to confront them and say, I'm ready to address those, and I'm ready to recognize that those are not failure points on my part. And anything that I may have been considering a failure point on my part, maybe I need to reorient my perspective, particularly if these are energies that have been holding some of these wounds since childhood. Because again, we can't fault children for things that happen within them. Most often, and a lot of the energy is reminding themselves of this if they're doing a lot of this inner child healing. Often we carry the wounds of childhood with the responsibility of an adult, recognizing that if we were to objectify those in the children around us, we would never put that type of weight on them in the first place. So even now, a lot of that energy is almost healing their inner child wounds by saying, the moment I took accountability for that was the moment something around me went wrong, because I never should have had that energetic burden to take on in the first place. Final card for today's spread, between our Judgment card and our Nine of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Does this card look familiar? Does this card look familiar? It should look familiar because we've drawn it twice, I believe, in the last few days in the reverse, in bottom of the deck. First in its reversal and then in its upright. And I believe it was bottom of the deck yesterday, if I'm remembering correctly. But I'm not surprised to see this card here, but I'm very happy to see the position of it, because now the card that was in the bottom of the deck is the energetic solution. So the problem just became the solution. We've got here our Three of Pentacles in its upright. What happens when we look at something from a different perspective? What happens when we carry something in a different way? We can build a new foundation. We can build a stronger foundation. That's why a lot of this energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is energy that's not even doing this work because there's something that can be immediately acted upon outside of the self. This is energy that's doing this work to build stronger foundations within the self. Almost saying, I know those dark places in myself. I know what rooms they are. I know where they are. I know why they were formed there. And that's the energy that's accepting and navigating those. And it's creating that sense of energetic strength and stability within that can then express itself without. Because that ability of identifying what caused harm immediately allows the validation of not allowing that harm to occur again. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, that energetic equivalent to a certain extent in navigating through something, doing that work, coming into the divine union frequency, a lot of that has shifted your own perspective. And a lot of that can feel almost energetically disorienting at the time that you come into the divine union frequency, because feeling that stability around you, feeling a stability around you that you may not necessarily have felt before, it can feel validating, but it can really transform your judgment on anything that you experienced prior to that point that did not have that point of energetic stability. So that's why we see even now making sure that you don't get kind of more of a myopic view on something that happened in the past is so valuable and important right now for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, recognizing and identifying that that perception shift is something that occurs that can feel very disorienting, even as it can feel enlightening. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, a lot of new potential connections that are occurring. A lot of new path work here. A lot of new, and even if this is not romantic, a lot of it feels like it is foundational. A lot of it feels like a lot of the connections that are occurring right now for a lot of the energy in separation is reaffirming, in the sense that it is validating how far you've come on your own journey. in terms of seeing something tangible that required you to walk away from something that was lacking. While, just bear with me, bottom of the deck on these cards right now is Three of Wands in its upright. And this is very curious because if you'll recall, a lot of yesterday was heavily oriented in the realm of plans, right? Even now, there's something about, I want to say there's something about this right now. I told you, it has to do with a little bit of that energetic slowness, if you will. That ability to, it's like a perception adjustment. Like something about this right now across all the frequencies is requiring a little moment to like allow one's own perception to adjust, if you will, right? And that makes a lot of sense because if we are seeing the energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, that's having a lot of this energetic breakthrough, this is that moment that like it takes a little bit of time for that perception to really kind of take effect. Like something here, if you're just having that kind of breakthrough, it takes time to see how you feel in the moment versus whether you'll feel like that in the long term. Because this is feeling like, to me, like a lot of that like sense of like immediacy here. That's almost like that sense of like not wanting to get reactive, even as you're experiencing a breakthrough, that's trying to ascertain and say like, do I feel like this just because of the immediacy of the moment, or is this something that's going to stick around? While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this energetic equivalent to a certain extent is effectively that sense of recognizing what I just said. Your ability, hindsight is 2020, but hindsight can be a little bit skewed, and especially for energy that's coming into the divine union frequency, that ability of seeing something in a different way, it can add a lot of clarity to things. But it's also a moment that you have to recognize that you can't look at the perception of the present and recognize and look at it with the same view of the past, because that's that recognition point of identifying that some of that energy from the past might not have had the perception that you have now, specifically because you're in divine union, which is why we say you have to be very mindful about not assuming that your clarity of perspection is something that energy from the past embodied at a time that you didn't embody it, because that's what a lot of the energy is going through right now that's coming into the divine union frequency. It's trying to understand the perception of others at a moment that your own perception is changing. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is that shift of perception that we see that is potentially happening that feels like that moment of energetic closure, because a lot of the energy right now, even in expressing something, is that moment that you suddenly realize that you're talking or articulating on it in a way that feels like it's past tense. Like it's almost that moment of being like, oh, I guess that's behind me now. It's not something I'm even experiencing. It's something that happened to me. And even in that moment, it almost feels like that energetic breakthrough moment, specifically because that is that moment that articulates and amplifies just how far you've come in the sense of talking about something like something that happened instead of something that is currently happening. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I, nor will any other true spiritual reader ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never ask you to inbox me. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a few quick updates before we close our reading for today and move on to the personal readings. First and foremost, We are very excited to announce that we are continuing our class program this evening, tonight at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are proceeding on our Tarot Church journey. Last month, we focused our classwork on the Fool card. This month, we are focusing our classwork on the Magician. You can join us tonight at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern for that for that class. Now, in that class, we will be assessing, we'll not only review some of the work that we've done prior to this point, but we're also going to unpack all of the correlations of the Magician, what that journey looks like, how it applies in your own readings, symbolism, numerology, the whole 9 yards. I'm also going to be providing some spreads to help you utilize the Magician in the best way in your own personal tarot practice. All you need to do to become a part of that class is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your monthly paid subscription will grant you access not only to each month's live classes, but if you can't make the month's live class, it's not a problem, because you'll also have access to the recordings of all the previous classes as well as the coursework. So even if you want to catch up, you still got some time this afternoon. If you'd like to brush up on what we learned in last month's class, just become a paid subscriber and you can catch up and you'll be right on board to where we're going to get started this evening. Your subscription also grants you access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students where you can ask any questions in relationality to tarot and your own specific journey. And also, if you would like to become a founding member to my Substack, not only do you get a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you also receive a free 1-hour mentorship reading with me, wherein we will assess where you are on your own particular tarot journey, and I will give you any insights in terms of how to best utilize the class and the coursework and your own path to be able to utilize the classes to your best advantage. One of the things I pride myself about with these classes is I tried to make them so that they would be suitable and useful for both the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's a bit of something for everyone. I want to thank everyone who's already become a member of that class program, and I'm really looking forward to everyone who's joined and seeing you this evening. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you just to become a free follower for me over there, because that's where I'm putting you get added to our newsletter. You get to find out about any new offerings, any new events that I may be doing. That's a good place to be able to keep in contact. Also, I'm very excited to announce that we're going to be announcing the winner of last month's 15-minute reading contest this week. I'll be announcing that over here, both on Substack and also on TikTok. But if you did not win that contest, I have some good news, because even if you've already filled out the survey, you can enroll and win potentially this month. This month, we are changing the contest. We are going to be pulling not one, but 2 free tarot readings for anyone who becomes a winner of that contest. All you need to do to become a potential winner of that contest is fill out the survey or refer a friend to take the survey. When I announce the winner, I'm going to ask the winner who referred them to take the survey, and I will be giving out a free tarot reading to the winner as well as the person who referred them. So if you've already taken the survey, thank you so much. And if you'd like to enroll or win more, get more opportunities to win, please go ahead and forward that travel survey to a friend. We are looking about doing some destination retreats this coming year, and I would love your feedback on where we should go. I've got a few ideas, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Finally, I'm really excited to announce that we have some new offerings that we are offering for my clients. Both coming from a lot of requests that I've received. First and foremost, we now are offering mentorship classes. Those mentorship classes can be purchased either on an individual one-on-one basis, or they can be purchased as 1-month class packages. So 4 45-minute mentorship classes all throughout the course of a month. Those classes, if purchased as a package, do come at a discount, to be mindful of making sure that you can fit your price point. And those will be very much oriented in helping you in terms of your own spiritual journey. They can be very much customized as it relates to whatever area you would like to focus on in relation to your path of learning, and especially in relationality to the tarot. The other thing I'm offering for clients who are seeking more consistent tarot advice is our tarot weekly insights. So those are also a package of tarot readings that you can purchase at a discount. That is going to be four 30-minute readings a month, in which we can continue on a consistent basis to give you the advice necessary to understanding your journey from a week-by-week basis. Again, I want to thank you guys so much. I know that I've had a lot of people request these. I'm very happy to be able to offer them to you. If you'd like to find them, all you need to do is go to the link in my bio. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.